Today, we will be talking about books that I will take zero criticism of. If you have a differing opinion, it's okay, not all opinions are correct, and that's fine. These are books that are my 5 stars or my top reads. If I want a good time, I'm going to turn to them. And we have quite a bit of variety here. I don't even have physical copies of all the books we're going to be talking about today. You're like, Emily, what?
Yeah, I know.
So we're going to get started because we have quite a bit. We are starting off strong with Catching Fire. If you have not read the Hunger Games trilogy by now, literally pause this video, go to your library, go to your local bookstore, whatever it is, get the Hunger Games immediately and read them. Catching Fire is the second book in the Hunger Games trilogy. It is the best book, objectively. Remember, this is my video and my opinion's all true here. We can agree to disagree, but on this, we cannot. Do I even need to explain this? Everyone doesn't know this is a classic dystopian series that does a really great job of commenting and criticizing the American government specifically, at least where I'm American, so I'm seeing it it's hitting a little bit too close to home. Has been hitting a little bit too close to home. There's probably one of the best dystopian female main characters, Miss Katniss Everdeen herself, the best book boyfriend, in my very humble opinion, Peter Millark. This series has been around forever. If you have not read it, read it by now. If you have read it, read it again. It's so good. Also with anticipation of Haymitch's book coming out soon. 10 out of 10, no notes. Catching Fire just was unlike anything else. Our next one is the Darkest Mind series. There are quite a few series on here, but anyone that knows me know that I just have the most uncontrollable love for this series. It's young adult. It's another dystopian series. It's about individuals that there's a virus that goes around that kids ages whatever, like 11 to 19 at the time, I believe, or if they're born over a certain amount of time, they are prone to developing powers. The more strong your power is, the more out of control mentally or physically you are. And I read this series religiously every single year because it is that good, and there are just so many plot twists that I somehow forget, despite this being probably one of my top series of all times. There's some good romance, plot twists are crazy, also great for the young adult crowd. It's literally like, oh, I cannot recommend it enough. I'm obsessed. Also, I never watched the movie. Probably will never watch the movie. I heard it's not good, but the books are great. Next up, this wouldn't be a book recommendation video by me if I did not recommend Miss Emily Henry. And we're gonna recommend Beach Read. Yes, I have both copies. This is probably one of the only books I will have 2 copies of. If you're like newer to romance, Emily Henry I think is a good gateway. She's a good like straight hetero romance if you're looking for that. Her writing style is beautiful, despite like maybe not all of her books being like my favorite. Obviously this is one of my favorites. Her writing style is so eloquent and descriptive and beautiful and reflective that you still have a good time every time, and you're finding some way to relate to the characters that's making you cry. There's a very strong focus on family typically in her books, which we love, or it makes us sad to reflect on. I can go either way. But Beach Read is beautiful. It's about 2 authors who write incredibly different. Like one is a romance author, one I think does more like biographies. It's been a while, but like more like nonfiction-esque, and like write stories about people, and they challenge each other to write books of the other's genre and there's a history of like academic rivalry. I love academic rivals so much. This is always like one of the #1 Emily Henry books I always recommend, especially if you're looking for a romance, especially if you're looking to get into romance, or if you need just a good book, highly recommend. Next one we're going to recommend for our fantasy girlies, the Shepherd King duology. This is the first one, War and Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. This duology changed my life. There's mystery, there's plots to overthrow people, there's magic, there's prophecies. There's so much stress and suspense, and you're like, oh my gosh, literally what is going to happen? We got multiple character POVs, which typically I'm not a big fan of, but I actually liked all the characters, so it worked out. This duology, if you're looking to get into fantasy, there's some romance in it, but if you're looking for like puzzles and like magic and potentially not everything always going well, but there is a happily ever after at the very end, this series is for you. I could not recommend it enough. Also, if you would not recommend it, remember this is my video, no criticism here. Sorry. Right now you're on my internet. My next recommendation, I do not have the physical copy of it, but Renegades, the Renegades series by Marissa Meyer. I found out about this series this year. One, the main character is half Filipino. As a half Filipino girl myself, representation matters. Representation matters. Once again, like fantasy. I'm really into like romance and fantasy are my main two areas to go to. As you'll see by all of my recommendations. But think of like a villain and hero society, and a villain that was wronged in their childhood, but they go undercover and infiltrate the hero at academy. I almost just said academy, and they're pretending to be a hero, but they're secretly spying for the villains. It's so good. There's POC representation, which we love. LGBTQ representation, which we love. I was like, why are not more people talking about this series online? I'm honestly like shook. Why are not more people talking about this? It's so good. I need to get this series on my hand ASAP if anyone wants to send it to me. Thank you. I cannot recommend it enough. Our next one is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. You might have heard her from the Inheritance games, but this is her other big series, The Naturals. I think this series is better than the Inheritance series, and I actually know so, because no criticism here, but if you like thriller or like horror or suspense or murder mystery, this is a young adult series about 4 kids who have childhood trauma that essentially has made them good at solving crimes. Like 2 of them are profilers for finding unsubs, another one, no, there's 5 of them. One of them's an emotion reader, one of them is a lie detector, and the other one is really good at analyzing like statistics and memorizing facts, stuff like that. It's the way that these are all the series. There's 4 books. It's the way these are young adult, but they're still like quite graphic when it comes to the violence and unaliving. But if you like Criminal Minds, I highly recommend this book. I read a lot of young adult. I don't think there's any issue with still reading young adult, as I'm a full-on adult. Just because I feel like, I know people have talked about this a little bit, but like the young adult stories, I feel like just tend to sometimes be a little bit more interesting. And I'm like, why can't we just make young adult stories with like people that are a little bit older? Highly, highly recommend. So good. I'm gonna reread this series when I like forgot a lot of the plot twists, because there's like an overarching plot throughout all 4 books, but then like mini plots within each book. And I want to forget it because just rereading it again. Oh, if I were to ever lose my memory, this would be one of the first series I'd pick up again. My next recommendation is actually a manga, Spy Family. Not completed yet. They're still coming out with chapters and volumes. You gotta diversify your reads. Spy Family, the song Despicable Me by Pharrell Williams was actually directly inspired by this manga. That's a lie. It was written for the Despicable Me 4 soundtrack, but I like to think it's also written based off of the Foragers family. Okay, let's set the scene. There are 2 sides of a country at war. One side, there's a spy that goes undercover into the other side to infiltrate and get in touch with a super high figurehead politician who is super isolated, doesn't ever talk to anyone. So he has to form this like pretend family to enroll at this elite school where the only time this politician is typically seen is at school events that are like super like elite. He adopts a kid. The kid is a telepath, can read minds.
Wow.
And so she knows he's a spy because she can read his mind. And then he finds a woman to pretend to be his wife who is actually an assassin for the other side of the country that he's against. And the kid knows their true identities. They're all hiding everything from everyone. And it's so good. There's an anime, which is amazing. There's a movie. The manga's so good. That's obviously much more far ahead with the plot progression than the anime, but I cannot recommend it enough. I love our little Forager family. And this is not a spoiler because it hasn't ended. I don't know how it's going to end. If the Foragers do not find happiness with each other, how am I supposed to find happiness in life then? I will simply cease to exist if they do not. And that might be a threat, Tatsuya Endo. My life is in your hands. Next book is the Legend series. We have another dystopian series, you guys. Also another war-esque book. This is about 2 individuals on different sides of a war. The girl, this June, I love her. She might be like up there for like top 3 favorite female main characters of all time for me, for female protagonists. She is an academic military weapon. She's like in this elite school that like on one side of the war, like she's part of the militia. And then our male protagonist is on the other side, but he's kind of like a criminal and he's like doing all, I think they call him a runner, and like he's doing all the like getting in there and getting his hands dirty and infiltrating everything. And they ended up meeting, and it's a classic like, oh, who's on the right side? Or no, neither of our sides good. Honestly, it's been a little bit since I've read these, so I honestly don't even remember. But the series is so good. The story building is beautiful. The plot twist was crazy. There are 4 books in this series, and I didn't even know the 4th one existed till maybe like 3 years ago or so. And like with how it originally ended with the trilogy, I was like, you're kidding. You're actually joking. If you like some good dystopian, reflective pieces that's still young adult, read it. Legend by Marie Lu. Our next one is one of my comfort reads, Kiss Now, Lie Later by C.W. Farnsworth. This is just one of those cheesy, cutesy little high school romances. It's about a girl who is romantically involved with her brother's rival. He goes to the opposing rivalry high school, and they're both, her brother and her love interest are both quarterbacks. And there's like forbidden love and sneaking around. And it's just like so mindless and cutesy and dramatic, like classic high school drama. But like it's nice because you're not in it, you know? So it's not as bad. If I'm ever feeling down and I need something good to read, I'm going to turn to this book. The reason I have not bought it yet is because there have been real people on the covers forever. I don't like real people on my covers. They kind of freak me out, but I heard she's redoing the cover, so I might buy it now. But highly recommend if you need something mindless, fun, a little bit dramatic, and cutesy. Okay, our next one I'm purposely bringing up because I just said I don't like people on my covers. This might be one of the, I think I own 2 books with people on the covers. And I'm including for fiction. Non-fiction, that doesn't count. Textbooks don't count, whatever. Princess Academy might be by Shannon Hall. Shannon Hall. Is one of my favorite books of all time. Because, one, there's a nostalgia aspect to it. This book has been around forever. Honestly, I think this is where my little feminist roots started. Listen up, I'm sick. Leave me alone. Okay, Princess Academy is about this prince who is trying to find a queen to marry. And all these soldiers round up all these girls of appropriate ages from all these surrounding towns around the kingdom, and they are brought into this school or academy to learn how to be the ideal perfect princess. So there's like politics and there's history and mannerisms, and obviously the girls like bond, there's like friendships formed, and it's so cute and fun and lighthearted. And I kind of love the like princess studying to be aspect. At the end, whoever's like the winner gets to be like the princess of honor-esque position, where like they get the nice gown and they get the most time with the prince. So like they definitely have an advantage. And oh my gosh, I just love it. It's so cute, so fun, young adult. Sequel, not as good, but that's okay, because this one is great. So if you like princesses or stuff like that, or like fun academies, friendship building, this is for you. Next one we're going to recommend is The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. This book came across my little scope of the internet earlier this year, and ever since then, it might be one of 2 of the best books I have read this year so far. It's called The X-Files. Did I say that already? The X-Files. Oh my gosh. I'm not well. It is another romance. This is an adult book. Adult contemporary fictional romance book. It's about 2 individuals. It's a second chance romance. They previously were in a relationship. Something happened and they broke up. But now they are both best friends with the groom in this wedding. And all these things are falling apart in the wedding. There are all these issues coming up. And they are the best man and maid of honor. And they must come together and work together to solve all these issues. The reason I love this book so much isn't just a classic like, oh, second chance romance, the proximity, they get back together. There's a very deep reflection of like, and I think like think piece on like why they broke up in the first place. There's some like childhood trauma that they can kind of they unpack together to like why they were motivated to do what they did. Additionally, there's a very strong emphasis of the importance of friendships and what we would do for our friends and our platonic loved ones. And that hit close to home because I love my friends to death. So this book spoke to the heart, and I cried. That's great. You might cry too. It's cutesy, it's fun, it's reflective, and it's a little spicy. Our next one is King of Greed by Anna Huang. This is controversial because I think this is the second best book in the series, her King of Sins series. I think best one is King of Wrath. King of Greed, though, another second chance romance. I just think the way it's written is so, like, I don't know if I want to say realistic, but in the fictional romance world, it feels more realistic. It's about two individuals that are already married, but they've been having issues, haven't been really, one has not been very mindful, might be even say a little bit neglectful of the other one's needs and wants in the relationship, and it's essentially a love story of them reconnecting after like being together for like 10 years and reestablishing the core to that friendship and relationship that was originally there. I love groveling. I love when men have to beg. So this book was great for me. Like I said, I don't think it's the best book she's written, but I think it was very entertaining and fun and good. I like to see men doing the most of the work, or the majority of the work, as they should. Next one I do not have, Check-in Mate by Allie Hazelwood. This is going to be interesting for some people. But if you're looking for like a little nerdy, fun, young adult book, yum. This is definitely a very acquired taste. I think most people look at this or read the bio and they're like, a chess champion. This is about like chess champion. This is about chess. And I'd be like, yep. But it's cutesy and it's fun and we love our little nerds. And if you're just looking for a fun little book, you're gonna have a fun time with this. I actually could not recommend it more. Only reason I don't have it, the cover kind of freaks me out a little bit. The art kind of freaks me out, but what can you do? Our next one is Emily Henry Makes a Reappearance with Book Lovers. Okay, so I know I said Beach Read was my favorite, but Book Lovers is for the eldest daughters. The eldest daughters out there, this one is written for you. Another romance, another contemporary romance. This one's about two individuals in the writing industry who, I'm not gonna say, this is not rivals to lovers or enemies to lovers. I just think they like had like one little professional not great moment together and now they don't really enjoy each other too much. She is an eldest daughter to her core, our little Virgo girly, type A girly, anxious girly. I love her. Our hyper independent, will not give up her career for romance or any man girly. I honestly love this book so much just for Nora, because I see so much of myself in me, but I think this is also a really good reflection of not changing yourself or not pursuing your dreams, because I feel like in the patriarchal society we live in, there's so much emphasis on like getting married and having kids, and for women to set aside their dreams so that they can provide and be the homemaker. And this book really, I think, challenges that and reinforces the idea that it's okay to do your own thing, which we love. Once again, also a very strong family aspect between Nora and her sister, and I have a younger sister, so this hit quite close to home. Highly, highly recommend. It's so good. All right, last couple ones. We're down to our final 3. Anyhow, next one, How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kwong. This might be the best book I read this year. And the Goodreads ratings it's getting are honestly rude. Like, no. Anyway, this is one of like the best adult contemporary romances I've ever read that also includes Asian representation, which we love. It speaks on generational trauma. It speaks on I don't know if I want to say PTSD, but there's a lot of mental health representation in this. Long story short, two individuals who something incredibly traumatic happened to them when they were younger, and now they don't get along, but come in their adult years, they now come back together, and there's a lot of discussion about forgiveness and how we process grief. And this book felt very real to me. I think that's like the best way I'd put it, is like real and honest and very vulnerable, because none of the characters are perfect, but the way they go about their conflicts and everything, it just feels very real, and I love them, and I love this book. Also, Yuen Kwang is one of the main screenwriters for Emily Henry's People We Meet on Vacation coming out, so I trust, after I read this, I'm like, I trust you with my life. All right, next one. I don't care what you have to say about this if you don't like it. I liked it. It was fun. Was it super well written? No, but it was fun. Bride, written by Allie Hazelwood, our second Allie Hazelwood representation. It's about vampire and werewolf arranged marriage. That kind of is giving like mafia vibes. This is not anything amazing. Allie Hazelwood has a formula, and she writes strong female leads, which we love. And it's a little bit fantasy and spicy and fun. And there's a little bit of a mystery that you're like, ooh, what's going on here? You also might learn something new about yourself after reading this. And we're gonna leave it at that. Our last one, Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book just feels like a warm hug to me. Another romance. Another second chance romance. I really like second chance. I like second chance romance because there's conflict they have to overcome. I enjoy conflict. I also enjoy good communication. This book I love so much. If you're looking for a like heartfelt, cute romance, but also will make you reflect on what you look for in your own romantic relationships and set your standards very high, this is for you. Something very traumatic happens to them. They have an extensive childhood history with each other where they were previously romantically involved. Something incredibly traumatic happens, and then they meet back up. They end up around each other again, and they have to kind of work through their differences. But I love them so much. They're so cute. I need to reread this soon. I haven't read this in a while. So those are all my books. These are all my book recommendations. I guess this turned into a book recommendation video, but also don't criticize anything I said, because like I said, we're all entitled to our opinion, but sometimes some opinions are incorrect, and that's okay. Comment below what your books are that you would take no criticism for. I would love to hear them. Comment below if you've read any of the books I've just talked about, and we can chat about them. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been so fun. I'm gonna go drink lots of tea because clearly I need it. But I'll see you guys next week. Otherwise, happy reading.